Uh, no, I just copied the link and shared it. But hey, listen, we're live anyway. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for this week's edition of the Weekly Roundtable. I'm one of your co-hosts and co-founder of the Liberty First Foundation, Frank Johnson. To my immediate side over here is Michael Vasquez, New York's only true independent journalist. And the last couple of weeks, we've had a couple of different technical issues with our live stream service. We haven't been able to get to you guys in the way that we want to and in the frequency that we want to. And it's so damn disappointing that today is the day that we have to come to you live. As you guys probably know, we usually try to come to you guys with a little bit of lightheartedness, a little bit of happiness and stuff like that. And today is just. Today, I kind of, when I woke up this morning, I kind of knew that when we were going to go into the live stream tonight, that today was going to be one of those days where I was not going to be feeling it. First, I was reminded first thing this morning that tomorrow's the anniversary of September 11th. And then I was also reminded that I'm here in Charlotte, North Carolina, where a young girl was brutally murdered on a mass transit train earlier this week, and how the media has completely and totally made like it hasn't happened. And we all know that if the situation were reversed, Charlotte would be burning to the ground. And then today, after sitting and surmising those two factors, watching a broadcast from Turning Point USA today, we see Charlie Kirk get assassinated. I am beyond the level of heartbroken and disgusted in a way I can't. It's becomes so much to process, and I have been saying for a long time, and Vass, I know you'll back me up on this when I say that it was going to get worse, that we were going to see more and more and more acts of violence. We were going to see more senseless killings. We were going to see darker days before we ever see any hope of light again. And today is just another horrific reminder of what the forces of evil are up to in this country.
I think it's far worse than that. I think it's way worse than that. And I've been through a whole spectrum of feelings today about this. I have some people who I know who are very close to Turning Point USA, who were there at the very beginning of Turning Point USA. And I've been taking calls from them and other political commentators and some candidates throughout the entire day. I've been on the phone back and forth with them all day long, sharing. People are afraid. They're angry. They're shocked. People have been crying. This is a devastating day. And I know a bunch of normal people, people who aren't into politics, and they're telling me, well, it's just another guy. And like, no, it's not. And they're like, well, that happens. People die like this. They get assassinated all the time. I'm like, no, they don't. And they don't. The people who don't usually follow this, they don't understand how devastating this is. The assassination, what we saw today, a man was a father, a young 31-year-old father of two young children, was assassinated because he used his First Amendment right to speak. He didn't advocate for violence. He wasn't out there trying to burn down a city or commit arson or steal anything or harm people. He wasn't trying to beat down the doors and break buildings. He spoke to people and he said, this is what I think. And he listened to what other people thought. And he said, here's why I think my idea is better. And because lunatics vile, demonic individuals couldn't come back with a better answer, with more facts or more reason beyond I feel, and that's their only answers. I feel. And he's like, okay, you can feel whatever you want. That doesn't make it work. And because they couldn't get a better answer, and because they didn't want to be embarrassed anymore, they killed the father of 2 young children because he spoke. That is, and this is an assassination. Yes, Charlie Kirk is a martyr now, and he shouldn't be. He should never have to be. And this puts us in a cycle of violence like we've not experienced in this country before. There are consequences to this that if you're a normal person, you're watching this for the first time, it's going to affect your life in ways you would never imagine. It doesn't matter if you don't follow politics. Politics will affect you, and this will affect you. And I am angry, and I'm very emotional, and I've been trying to calm down all day, and I've had spurts back and forth. And I see this. This is worse, Frank, than what we've been talking about. Yeah, we've been seeing the growth of violence from the far left. We've seen it with Antifa, with the BLM riots. We've seen it with the George Floyd riots. We've seen it with the autonomous zones across this country that have killed children in many of these autonomous zones across this country. But this is going to elevate it to a level we have not seen before. And I'm so angry about this. I'm trying to be, I'm usually very composed. And you almost never hear me talking about how I feel. That's one of the reasons some people watch me in my political commentary, why they watch me in the panel. I don't get upset. Frank, you get upset. You're the emotional one, and I'm emotional today. That tells you how far this has pushed me. Go ahead.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you and I go back and forth all the time between it. You always look at things from my pragmatic view of things usually takes a back seat to my visceral reaction to things and how I respond to things the way Joe consumer responds to things. You respond things more along the lines of a long-term political lens. You try and figure out how things work out, this way or that. But this is something that you and I both share, because it's not only a matter of ideological similarities that you and I have with Charlie Kirk and with Turning Point USA and with the work they do and everything, but from the constitutional standpoint of free speech. Mm-hmm. You and I both are advocates of free speech. No matter how horrific what somebody has to say, they say it. And we don't have to debate that fact between you and I about what someone should be allowed to say and what they shouldn't. We know that more speech is always better.
Yeah.
But this is like a home team player of ours, who, I mean, beyond the political ideology, but from the constitutional standpoint, that this was a guy who never shut somebody down. This was a guy who said, bring me your best argument and prove me wrong. And he took every possible point of view that somebody would give him. And if they were right about something, gave him credit for it. If they were wrong about something, tore him down. But he never shut nobody up. He never shut nobody down. He never told them that their view was insignificant. They would tell them their view might be wrong, but not insignificant.
He'd point out the flaws in their logic. He'd point out the lack of information if they have it. And when he was wrong, he was like, "Okay, you owned me. You got it."
He never attacked people.
No,
he never attacked people. He could attack a point of view, but he would never attack the person. He would tell people all the time, "I pray for you. I love you. You're a fellow human being. I care about you. You have value to me, not only as an individual, but as somebody that I can talk to." This was a guy, he was just out there. He was out there. And what makes it absolutely horrific, aside from the fact that he was so young, so smart, beautiful wife, beautiful children, the perfect nuclear family. He's not a politician.
No, and
He
that's so
he's just
true.
a friggin' guy. He's just a guy who had a vision and said, you know what? I'm going to take this vision. I'm going to bring it to the masses. I'm going to debate people. And everywhere he got in life was done based on his own accomplishment, his own mind. And they couldn't beat him in the arena of thought. So they had to kill him to silence him
Yeah.
because they could not beat him fair and square. I would look at Charlie Kirk and I would say to myself, if and when this guy ever decided to enter politics, I really feel bad for whoever would be on the debate stage with him to try
Yeah.
and go against him, because he would be. I mean, he is the guy who said openly, "I have no college education, but I'm self-taught. I have no formal education. I'm self-taught. Everything I learned from books. I learned from reading. I learned from talking to people." He did everything that is the antithesis of what they tell people to do today. Go to college, get a degree in some useless major, then rack up debt, do all the rest of this. He was a self-made man of the nth degree, of 31 years of age. I think to myself, the guy accomplished more in his 31 years than I will probably ever accomplish in however long I have left on this planet, 53 of which have already passed. I don't know, I don't say, but I will carry his friggin' torch. I will carry the torch for him, and I will debate whoever I have to debate. I will do what I have to do to make my point across, and I will try to have at least a little bit of the Charlie Kirk touch, in how I handle people. Now, he would handle things a lot like you do, as being not extremely emotional. Granted, I'm going to be a little bit more emotional in certain circumstances, but it's just, I am so.
Well, that's the thing.
I look at a kid. I look at this kid, and I say to myself, he's young enough that he could have been my son. To say, we've heard Obama talk about, oh, this kid could have been my kid. This is a kid who could have been my own. He was young enough that I could have been a father to this kid.
Absolutely.
He was the kind of kid that, right, any adult would have cherished the opportunity to have a son like this kid. What a beautiful human being inside and out. And if the only way that you can silence somebody is to kill them, your argument has no merit. Every single thing that whomever it was that pulled that trigger, everything that person holds dear loses all value because they couldn't debate him.
It never had value. It never had value, which is why they had to resort to violence and assassination, because it had no value. And there's no substance to it. There may have been an emotion. I'm sure this was definitely motivated by emotion. It had no substance. And, people forget, this is just a guy, again, who was just talking. He wasn't even a politician. He didn't pass any laws. He didn't pass a single law. He didn't even try and pass a single law. He was talking about just what is and what could be. By the way, I should mention, right now, starting at 8 o'clock, and for people who live in the area, in the Bronx, there is a vigil for Charlie Kirk right now at the Bronx courthouse, the Bronx Supreme Court courthouse, down on 149th. And people can go there. I know there's candidates that are there. Republicans, conservatives, independents are there. There are people who are there celebrating the life and the free speech that Charlie Kirk represented. And for those who feel the need, and I know there's a lot of people who are upset. Like I said, I've been talking to many people all day. They're very personally upset about this, including myself. You can go down there, and there are others also having, they're doing a vigil. So I did want to mention that that's ongoing as we speak. But we need to, not only should we celebrate this man's life, Charlie Kirk, what he accomplished, and why he was so driven. Free speech. He wanted every American to have their voice heard, to have the issues heard, to try and find the best path forward, which wasn't always the path he was on. But you know what? Let's passionately debate it and find out which one is. And that's why he's a martyr. That's why even some Democrats right now are saying, oh my God, this should never have happened. How do we get here? But let's also point out there's a bunch of politicians right now, a bunch of people on the left who are celebrating this. They're sick. I have screenshots being sent to me right now of people on the left. Now they're threatening JD Vance. Now they're threatening other commentators like you and me, Frank. They're threatening their lives, saying, oh no, you're going to be next, which is trying to silence us. They're trying to use this to make us afraid and scared. I know candidates who are running for elected office right now, and they're like, oh my God, now I have to be worried about, am I going to be next? I have political commentators from across this country of every political spectrum, and they're all saying, could I be next? There are people who are afraid that there's going to be copycats on the left and the right because of what happened today. And I have to tell you, no, Charlie Kirk would never have advocated any violence, not even in response to his death. He'd want more speech. He'd want more conversation. And to people like J.B. Pritzker, who's using this and trying to say, well, this is all because of Donald Trump. Screw you, J.B. Pritzker. No, it isn't. This is because of a lunatic who's on the left. And I know we don't know that yet. Yeah, it's a lunatic on the left, because the left believes that if you don't agree with someone, that's a microaggression, and therefore they can use violence. The right does not have that belief. The right has the belief that we'll talk it out. The left has the belief that they will force you to comply. And that's what's going on here. So J.B. Pritzker, you're so obsessed with trying to run for the 2028 election that you're willing to twist and use a man's death, the death of a father of two young kids, to try and promote your political career. I hope your career ends in misery. I'm not wishing him violence. I want him to be penniless. I'd rather see him out of politics forever because he's an evil person. I'd say that about there was Matthew Dowd on MSNBC who was cheering about the fact that this man was assassinated, an assassination. He's cheering it on CNBC. You know what, Matthew Dowd? I hope you lose your job. I know MSNBC, or they want to call themselves MS Now, they're trying to say, oh, maybe it was it was because of one of the supporters of Charlie Kirk. They fired off a gun and it went off. No, don't try that crap to try and spin it, to try and justify it, to try and give an excuse for those on the left that you know did this. Barack Obama tried that crap, put out a tweet. We can't even imagine the motivation. Yes, we can. We all know what the motivation was, because that's what the left talks about every day. That's what Blue Sky's talking about right now as they're celebrating. And you know what? You even have people like George Takei who are like, oh, well, see, Charlie Kirk was all wrong about the Second Amendment. Guess what? The rifle didn't kill Charlie Kirk. I'm not mad at the rifle. I'm mad at the maniac that pointed that rifle and said, I'm going to use this tool to silence that man because I don't have a better idea. Sorry, I'm like I said.
No, brother, I want you to let it rip. I want you to let it go. I want you to say everything you got to say, because the fact of the matter is, if we don't say it, it goes unsaid. And in the spirit of what Charlie believed, more speech is what's needed. Yeah. And I'm gonna tell you something.
I'm still here. Go ahead.
That's right. I'm gonna tell you something that's pissing me off. And this is gonna be from how do I the exploitation of Charlie has already begun. Not from the left, but from people on our side. And I'm not even going to say people from our side, because to lump these people onto the left or right is different, because they're not left or right. These are people that are going to be exploiting Charlie's death for their own personal enrichment. And I'm going to call one guy out who's been doing it a lot lately, in my opinion. Maj Touré.
Maj?
Maj
Really?
Touré. Yeah, yeah,
I know Maj.
from Black Guns, yeah, from Black Guns Matter,
I
from Black Guns
personally
Matter.
know
This guy.
Maj.
Okay, every single time something goes on, he runs over. He does his little social media posts. He does this. He does that. He does his version of analytics, and then tries to sell one of his classes to go along with it. Oh, well, this is why you need to take this class. This is why you need to take that class. This is why you need to do this class, that class. Girl gets killed on the subway list this week. He's already, people have brought to mind that on that subway car, the only Caucasian on the subway car was the girl who got murdered. And all the other people on the car did absolutely nothing while this raving madman stabbed to the death. All right. Now, granted, it was a very quick attack, and it doesn't give people a lot of time to respond necessarily. But it was clear that the guy came out in the audio. You could hear it say, "I got that white girl. I got that white girl." This guy killed this girl was racially motivated. He didn't stab the other three black people that were on the car. He stabbed the white person. Well, somebody brought out the fact that if the roles were reversed, that Charlotte would be being burnt to a cinder right now.
Yes.
So Charlotte would be burning down. Automatically he's playing that, condemning that point of view as if it's not true. He did it with the football guys. Remember the guy the kid at the stadium that stabbed the other kid and killed the other kid? Automatically came out.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, automatically came out. Name not important at the moment. Just for the sake of argument, name not important at the moment. Automatically came out with that. But today, and every time he's got a rant, tagged onto his post, take this class. You got to take this class. This would happen if you take this class. Well, listen. It goes beyond that. I sat and I watched one of his rants today, and the first thing I did while I was watching the thing was go to the comment section. People asking, "Do you sell merch?" And he's plugging the link to sell his merch. You can't even wait long enough for for Charlie's family to claim the body instead of going out there and using it as an attempt to self-promote, to self-aggrandize, to tell people, listen, there's decorum. There comes a time.
But let me see.
There comes a time. Look, you got to back up a little bit, and you got to say, listen. You got to come out and you got to say, listen, what happened to Charlie was a horrific thing. We're so sorry that it happened. Whatever you say, you express your condolences and you leave it alone. No hashtags, no links, no nothing. Just give a family a little bit of time so that they can turn around and mourn, so people can adjust, so people can absorb what happened. He's already selling merch. Well, he's looking at it as a reason to grow his base, and he's not the only one.
No. I personally know Maj Touré, and I knew Maj before he got famous. And I've spoken with him several times. I've spoken with him at many events and spoken with him. And I can say, no, yes, he will take the money if it's there. Yes, he needs the money for a lot of reasons. And yes, he is very black-centric in his viewpoints, which are all fine. That's all fine. But he is somebody who does care. And he's met with Charlie Kirk. He's spoken on stages with Charlie Kirk before. Didn't always agree with him, but they've been at the events. They've spoken with each other. They knew each other to some degree. I can say, in my experience with Maj, he's not, he makes money. He's a businessman. He's going to make money whenever he can because he has to, because he's not getting promoted. He's been the target of persecution, unfair persecution, in my opinion. I didn't see his coverage today about Charlie Kirk. I can't speak to that. So I don't know if it was in bad taste or good taste. I don't know. But I personally know Maj is not a bad person, even if he's coming off that way. That's his presentation. But I can tell you, if you were to speak with Maj, you'd have a very different opinion.
Well, I'll tell you, we've spoken to Maj. As a matter of fact, Marshall was one of the first people that ever interviewed him on 4 years ago. We interviewed him for the
I
Liberty First Foundation.
I
4 or 5 years ago, one of the very first people that interviewed him was us. All right,
okay, did Ben
this going way back when.
Yeah,
But there comes a time you have to put your self-centering need on the back seat and say, you know what, this isn't about me for once. This is about Charlie. How about this? How about, listen, if you guys want to buy some shirts or you guys want to do this, we'd like to make a donation to Charlie's family. Any money that we sell for selling any of our merchandise is going to go to Charlie's family, or is going to go to Turning Point USA. It's going to go to this. It's going to go to that. No, it's going to go to, I need to buy this building. That's what it's going to go to. I need to buy the building.
Yeah, that's his priority.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Yeah, but your priority shouldn't be built on somebody else's tragedy.
Shouldn't be. And if he's doing that, again, I haven't seen it. I'm not disputing that you saw it. I'm not saying that. I haven't seen it, so I can't. I don't know if there's more emotion in it or not. I don't know.
Third comment down on the thread from his post. He's pushing his merch link. Okay. Not for nothing. Lay off. Give it a friggin' day.
Team. That doesn't necessarily. Mind you, even if it's his team, it's still him and it's still his product. I get it. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's Maj. But I think we're missing there. I think there's a massive difference. At least my understanding is different, that there's Maj running his business. It may be distasteful. And that's one aspect. That's not the same thing as what I'm seeing with J.B. Pritzker, who's advancing his political career based on this. MSNBC is poisoning the well and demonizing and disrespecting Charlie Kirk, his family, his beliefs, so that they can get eyeballs on their channel. As far as I know, Maj isn't disrespecting Charlie Kirk, his work, or his ideology, the First Amendment, Second Amendment, freedom. He's not disrespecting any of that. He may be making a profit off of the fact that he has a channel and he has agenda. That's one thing. That's not the same thing as what we're seeing on the left right now, who are making a profit by demonizing and destroying and trying to silence everyone from speaking.
Well, all you know is that there comes a time when you have to say there's some decorum. There's got to be a little bit of friggin' decorum. See, this is one of the problems why we have societal collapse right now, is that nobody knows when to just shut up. I know yes, you have a right to say something, but sometimes, you know what? Back up a little bit and say, you know what? I got to give some time to the family. I got to give some time for people to process. I got to give some time to this. You can analyze things later on. You could do your post. You know what? Do a post unrelated to what happened to Charlie Kirk. Do a post unrelated to what happened to that girl on the train. Do a post other than something that's a inflammatory thing. But they don't want to do that. They want to capitalize on the tragedy.
Well, no.
Whether it's one side or the other, they're capitalizing on the tragedy for their own personal use. And I think it's in bad taste.
Okay, and I have to say that under that definition, then I'm at fault too, because I cover shootings, mass shootings, school shootings on the day that it happens.
But you're covering it as a matter of news. You're not. You're covering it as a matter of right. You're a commentator.
I put my views into what I'm covering. I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing. I'm not saying that I intend to. I'm not trying to bilk people, or I'm not trying. I try my very best not to make it a negative. But if that's the case, then most of the media, most political commentators are at fault because we're talking about these things when they happen. Yes, decorum would be great. Mind you, I'm not talking negatively about Kirk. I don't talk negatively about the victims of these kinds of crimes. I do talk negatively about the media that either hide these events or promote them in the future. I do talk negatively about the social media that creates an environment to hype these things and to turn these vile, psychotic demons that commit these kinds of acts of violence and turn them into some kind of hero for the cause. That I will attack all day long. I attack the news media for their political spin and politicians with their political spin on that. I think that's absolutely appropriate, but it's a twisted industry because we talk about death, destruction, and horrible things on a regular basis because that's the life. That's life. So I can't
No,
fault for people for doing that, but I will fault people for when I think there's a massive difference between what we're seeing with MSNBC saying, "Oh no, it's actually the fault of Charlie Kirk supporters. That's why it's a fault of the Second Amendment and Second Amendment supporters. I have a fault with that. I have massive issue with J.B. Pritzker saying I should be elected president because there wouldn't be people like Charlie Kirk out there anymore, and Donald Trump is the problem when it's actually the indoctrination coming from the left in schools and in colleges that are promoting this, that are saying that it's the that having someone disagree with you is violence. And we've heard that from the left. They've said this. We've seen the protests for years now, for at least the last 5 years, if not the last 15. We've heard them at protest after protest that silence is violence and disagreeing is violence. You have to obey them. You have to agree with them because if you don't agree, you're an ist and a phobe. And if you're an ist and a phobe, well, then you're an enemy, and we got to destroy you. We got to silence you. There is no silencing ultimately greater than shooting someone, that killing someone. And that's what the left is promoting. And people should, if there are anyone on the left watching this, they really should realize the left ideology is an ideology that's pushing for death. They're celebrating this. The left is celebrating. I have screenshots of the left celebrating and saying they want to imitate and copycat this. This is going to take our nation into a very dangerous place.
well, to address a couple of the comments that we're getting on the feed over here, Sharon Nuffer says, "I got a weird feeling that this is just the beginning." Sharon, I got news for you. It's not the beginning. This is in the throes of. This has been happening for a long time. It's just that things are becoming more and more apparent to us the more that they happen, because I've said it in the past, and Vassal, he won't necessarily agree with my commentary, but he'll agree that I've said it. The reason that we're seeing more of it is because of the spread of social media. That these things have always taken place. It's just now there's a lot more eyes on it because the media is so quick to be able to cover it. Because everybody's got a TV in their hand now, so everything that happens, it's instantaneous. So we're starting to see more of it because there's more cameras out there. There's more people watching out there, more eyes on the scene, the more it's going to happen. And eventually it's going to get to the point where, as it's getting, you're seeing people realize that they get a broader audience. They get a much broader audience now than they did if it was 25 years ago. I mean, look at what happened with the Boston bombing. I mean, you had one of these kids, one of these asshole terrorists got put on the cover of Rolling Stone, and they made him into a friggin' hero. They made him into a hero. You don't think that inspired? Of course, it inspired people to try and do the same. But this is not the beginning. This is the throes of. And all it has gotten to be is now it's means, motive, and opportunity. There's more people with the means, a shitload more people that have the motive, and now what we're doing is we're providing them with more and more opportunity. The more outspoken that we get and the more into the public we all become, and the more we go out there to spread the message, we're giving them more opportunities for them to do the things like what they did today. Now, I don't know why Charlie Kirk was in an open forum. I don't know why that there wasn't an auditorium that this could have been
Today?
held in.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I can answer that. He was doing what he always does. Charlie Kirk was pretty much the originator, and I think Steven Crowder followed him on this, of doing one of those convince me.
Prove me wrong thing.
Yeah, so he's sitting down, and what he was at the Utah Valley University, and he was there to take questions, like he does all over the place.
I understand why he was there. I don't understand why he was in that. I don't understand why he was in that particular forum rather than indoors. Why was it outside in this broad expanse where there's buildings around from elevated positions where people can take things? He was just in Great Britain 2 weeks ago and did the same thing at a college in England, and it was indoors. Nobody was able to do nothing to him there.
There's a reason. There's a reason. One, in England, they have a tradition of having the kind of format he was dealing with is traditionally indoors, and it's very structured. There's a formality to it. When he's in the United States, he is almost always outdoors at every single college. Part of that is because of liability reasons. Part of that is because of the access to the colleges that he has. Some colleges require, if you're going to have a hall and you're going to be in there, you're required by student union. You have to be cleared. You have to have certain insurances that aren't necessary if he's just outside in the common grounds.
But all right, but still, even though outside on the common grounds, given recent events going back less than a year now, that environment should have been much better secured for where it was. There are ways that these things can be done. Just the simple application of a bullet-resistant screen in front of the podium or the chair that he's sitting on still gives the students access to be close. He can still be seen, but it offers them a modicum of protection. They didn't do that. There was no. I don't know what they should. This has got to be a wake-up call.
Well,
it's got to be a wake-up call.
Now you'll see people doing that, but
it should have been.
It's never been necessary because you're in America on a college campus, which is
Charlie did those. Charlie did those like that because he was approachable. That's how he wanted to be. He wanted to be approachable. He wanted everybody to feel like he was accessible to talk with. Okay, that was his whole thing.
Hey, Marshall.
He didn't care what their opinions were. He didn't care what any of that was. He allowed them to speak their voice.
No, but he still could have. This still could have been done with an elevated level of protection.
Yeah, but Frank, you got to remember, prior to this, and this is not just him; it's Crowder. There's actually several people, and also his TPUSA, the Turning Point USA organization. They've been doing this in this format, either with him and other groups as well, for a decade, almost a decade. No, actually, it is a decade that they've been doing this. There's several reasons, which include liability. There's several reasons that include accessibility and openness, and it's less intimidating for people who are speaking to him. There's a bunch of reasons why he does it the way he did, and because there's never been a reason for him or Crowder or anyone who does this to assume or even believe they're going to be shot.
Now that's the thing. There's always been a reason to believe. Just because somebody acted on it yet doesn't mean that the reason wasn't there. somebody managed to exploit a weakness in this thing. I don't know how long in advance this thing was promoted. Whoever it was that did that shooting had the time, the means to pick out a location, to know where he was going to be.
They always do.
Right.
They always do on these events.
Right.
Always.
And that's what I'm saying. Just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean you don't take precautions. I had an uncle that lived on Highland Boulevard in Staten Island. 6 different cars came through. He lived on a weird bend on Highland Boulevard. 6 different cars came through his front yard in various accidents, flipping over, hitting poles, doing this, that, and that. All my uncle did all the time was ask DOT, hey, do you think you could put a guardrail in front of my house on this wicked turn? DOT said, we can't put a guardrail until there's a fatality. And that's part of the problem that we have here, is that we're reactionary instead of proactionary. There were ways that this could have been more secured and still had that open feeling, could have done this. Listen, listen.
I don't agree.
Vass, I do security. I understand security.
That's not my point.
I understand security. I understand there were ways that this thing could have been better vetted as to people coming in and out of the campus. I understand that there was no cars near that. The parking lot was a distance away. There's a way that they could have aerial surveillance. They could have drones. They could have a counter sniper initiative out there. You've got evidence already. Trump got shot, for God's sake, in a very similar situation. It's not that far off to believe that one of the most preeminent speakers on the right is going to wind up at some point or another being the target of some lunatic. It's not too hard to take some sort of precautionary measures over and above what they did. And that's all I'm saying. They could have done something. Something could have been done. Maybe it would have worked. Maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. But from the looks of it and looking at the video, looking at all, and I did the whole, looking at the scene from satellite imagery and seeing what was where, and like there was at least 12 different points of vulnerability that I could pick out, that if I was somebody wanting to do something nefarious, that I could have found. And every one of those things could have been countermanded.
Everything could be. If you have enough money, you have enough planning, and if you want to affect the way people are going to be interacting with you, and we're second guessing it. Yes, going forward, is that going to be more likely than not? There won't be counter snipers, but will there be more precautions? Maybe. Or what the left was hoping for is they're trying to silence this altogether. And whether they had done it with a bomb, or if they had someone trying to stab him, or whether they're trying to have someone use the gun. The goal was put enough fear out there so that no one will show up at these things and no one will actually try and do another one. So it's to silence a person who's showing up, whether it's a Crowder or a Kirk or myself or anyone else. They don't want us to go, and they don't want the audience to show up because they're afraid now too. This is fear-mongering. This is fear-mongering, which is the left's number one weapon. Be afraid. Comply because you're afraid. Don't do anything because you're afraid. Keep your head down, be silent, and obey because you're afraid. Because if you speak up, if you stand up, if you're noticed, you are a target. And now every political commentator on the left, the right, libertarians, conservatives, every political commentator, you, me, everyone are targets right now because the left, lunatics on the left, and also some extremist lunatics on the right are now going tit for tat. Let's see how many we can knock off. And guess what? This weekend, I'm going out, and there's some political events I would need to take care of. I'm going to be outdoors. I'm not stopping, and I'm not going to have bodyguards, and I'm not going to wear my bulletproof vest.
Well,
I could,
listen,
but I'm not.
I'm not telling people to stand down. I'm not telling people to stifle. I'm telling people to be a little bit more precautious because we are all going to be targets. We're going to be targets no matter what. There's no reason why you can't have additional security measures in place. We have to be, so if we're going to be targets, we can at least be smart ones. There's a reason why animals have natural camouflage, so that they could, go about their daily life and not be the victim of prey.
I understand that. But again, like this weekend, I'm going out. I have a couple of political events I have to cover for various reasons. And I can't walk around in a bulletproof vest. I have the bulletproof vest. I can't.
Yeah, but they're illegal. They're illegal in New York now, so you can't wear them.
I don't give a damn about that, and you know that. And if anything, please arrest me. I should wear them just so I can get arrested. But my goal isn't to be arrested. So, and because of the nature of the events, I can't wear the bulletproof vest. Would that mean does that mean more risk of getting shot? Yes, especially now that this has happened in this environment. Yes, but some of the other political figures I'll be around, they can't either. Because if we do, then the people we're talking to or trying to talk to, they're going to be terrified. They're going to run away. They won't show up. They won't have the conversation. They're going to keep their heads down and they're going to be terrified.
Well, do you think that people are going to show up to an event where they feel that there is no security?
Yes. Yes, because they do. They already do.
And then they're going to, and they'll show up if they feel, if they know that there's a police presence or additional security, they'll show up. But you know when they're really going to show up? When it's clandestine security practices. When you have no idea that the security is there and the security is in place, you don't have to tip your hand to have good security. You don't have to tip your hand.
They can't afford it. Can't afford it. I know political commentators, including myself.
Well, you see, here's the thing. But you see, here's the thing. On our side, we don't have to afford it. All you have to do is make a phone call. All you have to do is make a phone call. I can make a phone call right now. If I said I was going to go to a political event where I thought there was going to be danger, I can make one phone call and have 25 guys show up in clandestine ability, be able to protect that location without anything. No, not everybody. No, our side does. All we have to do is utilize it.
I do understand.
It's the same argument. It's the same argument that we have with school. It's the same argument that we have when we talk about hardening our schools. Yeah, how many veterans out there?
Hang on, I'll be right back. Hang on. Go on.
I was going to say, there's between the veteran community, law enforcement community, there are people that would be happy to volunteer their time to help protect and safeguard people and help protect and safeguard lives if it means that we can avoid a situation like what we had today. It's not a matter of money. It's a matter of will. And it's a matter of the willingness of people to actually go out and do it. Could it have happened? Yeah. Should it have, should there? I don't know from what I understand, there was a campus PD and Charlie Kirk's personal security of 6 people were there.
There's 6 campus police and then Charlie's security.
All right. Well, obviously something got in that shouldn't have, and Charlie Kirk paid the price for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fucking disgusting that this happened. Yeah, do we all want to live in a world of marshmallows and rainbows where everything is made of sponge and nobody gets hurt? Sure, we'd all love to have that, but this is the real world. There are lots of lunatics out there, and we've got to safeguard against a lot of them. And I'm not talking about taking people's rights away. All I'm talking about is enhanced security measures.
Frank, guys, I was sorry I had to step away for a second, but here's the thing. And I do appreciate and understand what you're saying, Frank. I get it. And no, it's not about trying to diminish anyone's rights. I get that. That's not where you're going. And I do understand the reality of the world we live in. Not a question. The thing that gets me is, but we shouldn't have to. It's a First Amendment right. We should be able, and that's the problem with our culture. That's the problem with Hollywood, the propaganda we're getting from the news media and from the colleges. We should be able to, anywhere we want to, have whatever idea we want to have and to be able to express it. And other people have the right to say, I totally disagree and I think you're wrong, without having to have a bunch of precautions because someone's going to be so offended, they're going to have their feelings are going to be hurt, and therefore that means violence. And that, I think, is a problem, that it's almost a validation of, oh, you're offended, so I have to have some kind of physical precaution. because your offense equals violence, and that's that's expected. No, it should never be expected. It's never justified.
No, no, it shouldn't. But a girl should be able to ride the subway without having a throat slashed.
That too. Yes, I agree with you.
There's a lot of things that should. There's a lot of things that could. There's a lot of things that would. But there's a lot of things that are. And until we can conquer the are, we have to take a little bit more precaution, be a little bit more sensible in what we do. There's a reason why when I go to a restaurant, I sit with my back to the door.
Yeah.
There's a reason when I go someplace, I notice where the exits are. There's a reason when I walk into a location, I scope the place out. I automatically look for who are my enemies, who are my friends, who's cannon fodder. It's situational awareness. This is what I do. This is how I live. Now, I'm not walking around thinking to myself that I'm going to be the target of anybody, but I'm prepared. I try to be as prepared as I can be. We all should be, because this is not rainbows and kittens anymore. You have sick people out there doing sick, horrendous things. And every time that it happens, we always go back to the same, what could have been. Now, I'm not talking, we have people on one side are going to say, well, as I forgot who was it said in the thing that the left is going to use this as he thinks that people on the left are using this as doing these things as a means to try and enact gun control. That was Joe Dowling says that it believes. He goes anti-gun people. Yeah. And said, he said that, anti-gun, he thinks that anti-gun people might be doing this so they could help enact gun control. And if you look at it and you start to think, well, let's go back to the Las Vegas shooting. Let's go back to that Las Vegas shooting. You have a country rock band whose fan base is going to be predominantly right of center. You have a guy who is wearing one of them pink hats that they know is at all of these left-wing rallies or whatever. This is a guy that winds up getting a bunch of fully automatic rifles from a hotel and starts shooting people and all the rest of the stuff. Well, why would this guy have done that? Why would that have been the target? Now, people were saying at the time, well, maybe this is a guy who was, so staunchly anti-gun that he wanted to use the gun against the right as a means of his swan song would be to try and enact gun control. I could see the logic, because there's different, there's all kinds of different maladies people have. There's people on the guy who shot Trump. This last school shooting with the anti-Trump shit all over the gun magazines and everything. All of these shootings lately have been leftists, but they're all very fond of guns when they're using it against the right. So it's not too much of a stretch to say maybe the people on the left are using the guns against us so they could try to employ gun control. I can understand exactly why somebody would believe that, because it's plausible. Well, it's absolutely plausible. All I'm saying is, we know that there's evil in the world. We can do a whole hell of a lot at protecting ourselves and protecting society without stepping on anybody's rights, but we need to be more vigilant.
I get your point. I do get your point, and we're not disagreeing with each other as much as there's a different emphasis on it, I think, overall. By the way, hello, Dow. Glad that you're with us.
Yeah.
But have noticed Mike Marshall jumped in and joined us as well. Before we go further, I wanted to mention two things. One, John R. had mentioned that people can, and perhaps this is something that Maj should have done today, many others probably should have done, is said, you know what, rather than buy my merch today, why don't you go and donate to I believe there's a GoFundMe being done, and donate to the family of Charlie Kirk, if anything, or to Turning Point USA in the name of Charlie Kirk, to make sure his organization continues, his goals and his life efforts are able to continue, that his family are able to be okay. I'm pretty sure they're going to be all right, because he had a lot of friends, he had a lot of allies, but just in case. So that's something, instead of buying merch, if you think somebody is just being If they're there for the money, don't give them the money. Give it to donate it. So that's one thing. But separate of that, I did want to mention I have and I mentioned I was going to say this, Frank. This is something I wanted to bring up before we get too far afield. Is I have some of my supporters, my audience, subscribers, and Patreon and such, and one of the members wanted to share something about Charlie Kirk because there's a lot of stories about Charlie Kirk, and some people don't like him. They do like him. They've got negative stories, good stories. Well, I have someone who's actually I know very well who actually met Charlie Kirk. And the thing is that their story with Charlie Kirk happened at CPAC. This is going back a few years, about I think this was in 2020 or 2019. And he was at CPAC. He was actually working as part of the staff. He's part of the CPAC, but he was there as a student. It was great. And he had to get from one end of CPAC to another to do some stuff. And to do that, he had to jump onto this escalator, and he was cutting people off, trying to, we're young, we're not thinking about other people, and he's being in a rush. He started cutting through the line of people on the escalator, and one people he suddenly cut off. He started to feel like Charlie Kirk. And he hadn't been pleasant. He wasn't outwardly rude, but he was kind of rude in the way he jumped in front of Charlie Kirk. It was accidental. He didn't mean to any malice by it. And Charlie Kirk at the time, as he described to me, this is back when Charlie Kirk was single, before he got married, before he had his kids. And so he's surrounded by, a bunch of beautiful women. And so he kind of stood out a little bit. And Charlie Kirk, for his credit, when this member of my audience recognized who he was cutting off and how he was being rude, Charlie Kirk didn't, as many other personalities might, didn't scold him, didn't put him down, didn't try to abuse him or embarrass him. He's like, youthful exuberance. Okay, I get it. Look, just relax a little bit. Take it easy. It's not a big deal. I get it. But at the same time, Charlie Kirk then noticed that surrounding them as part of the people going up that escalator and moving forward was Mark Geist. Now, you may remember him. I'm sure, Frank, you and I'm sure everyone on the panel remembers Mark Geist. But for those who don't remember him in the audience, he's one of the heroes who was in Benghazi. The people that Clinton said, what does it matter? The guys who died trying to protect our ambassador, trying to protect our people at the embassy as it was being attacked, that we were told, no, they were just having a protest outdoors. And then there's M60s and the equivalent AK-47s being shot at them and the doors being blown off the walls. And that's why we had the movie 13 Hours, which is pretty much a documentary, not an action movie. Mark Geist was there. And so Charlie Kirk, at that moment, decided he stopped everyone, stopped people as they were coming up off the escalator, and he started shouting at the top of his lungs and said, "This is Mark Geist, folks. This is the guy who was in Benghazi. He was fighting to save our ambassador. He was fighting to save American lives. This man is a hero. He needs to be lauded. We need to recognize this man." Again, Charlie Kirk could have been egotistical, could have insulted my audience member, my Patreon member, could have taken his time to berate him. He could have totally ignored Mark Geist. He could have just let him go by or just give him a nod. No, he went out of his way to both, one, completely forgive the young man that was in a rush, and to take the time to make sure the entire crowd at CPAC that were there at that moment, they weren't acknowledging Charlie Kirk, who was a star, that they were acknowledging Mark Geist, who most people didn't even recognize, didn't know who he was or what he had done. That's the kind of man that Charlie Kirk was. Somebody who would understand our flaws and our frailties, and is also the man who would acknowledge our heroes because he believed in America, he believed in individuals, he believed in speaking about the things that most people wouldn't notice and not emphasizing the negatives when he could emphasize the positives. That's one of the great memories that one of my members had about Charlie Kirk. It's a story that needs to be told today and needs to be remembered because that same man, Charlie Kirk, would not recommend anyone act out in violence on the left or the right. Not to take advantage of his death, not to get retribution or avenge his death. And that needs to be mentioned. And I want to share that with you guys. I promised that I would share it. And I thank you for giving me a chance to share that story, to share that message, because I think it's important and timely as we talk about many of the other factors that led to this moment and what's going to be the consequences of it. I think that was important to understand why this man mattered so much, why there's so much involved in this. So I thank you guys for that.
You know, honestly, the left's trying to say that they didn't lead up to this, that they didn't set the stage for this, when they absolutely did. Okay, we've shown video of Maxine Waters on this show inciting violence. We've talked about Chuck Schumer inciting violence. Ilhan Omar, again, inciting violence. AOC and her rhetoric to incite violence. And then you've got the pundits on the left that are constantly spewing about how the right is so dangerous, how we're a danger to democracy, and so forth. Okay. They literally set the stage for the events that happened today in Utah. And they can try to deny it all they want. True, the person responsible is a deranged maniac. Okay, but the left set the stage. I mean, if we look at it since even before the Clinton administration, if we look at it, the left has become more and more violent over the years.
Dow, what are some of your thoughts? You've heard a few things between Frank, me, and now Mike. You heard the story. What are some of your thoughts? And in general, what are your thoughts at the moment?
Well, the biggest thing is I agree that the left has definitely sent the message out, and these people look at it as if by taking words as violence, which is what the left has essentially set the stage for, is words are violence, right? Well, now this is an escalation. And I think one of the things we need to take away from this is that Charlie Kirk was a man of ideals. He was a man that wanted to debate those ideals, discuss those ideals. He wanted to crush and obliterate the ideology of leftism and authoritarianism and Marxism by using words and logic and thought. And I've heard a lot of people saying, "Oh, well, what's coming is going to be really bad. You know, the right is going to go up in arms. This could be a civil war and all this other stuff." I don't think that's what Charlie would want. I mean, it may be that's what comes from it, at some point, especially if the left continues to demonize half the country. But ultimately, the thing that Charlie was trying to do, that Mr. Kirk was trying to do, was win the war of ideas through discussion. And instead of this being a message to those that would dissent to what has essentially been the authoritarian message for the last decade at least, we need to be louder. We need not to be chilled by this, but we need to be more forthcoming and not drop our guard. We're not playing by the same rules here. Charlie was trying to use discussion to move forward. They don't want to discuss anything, and that's fine. But that means that the consequence of that is that we are going to have to push back on them, not just with deeds, but also with the conviction of our ideals that this is not okay, and you are going to reap the consequences of this, and we are going to basically shout you down. Not because we're mean, not because we lack empathy, but because you have laid out the rules of war, and this is what you're going to get. And the consequence is going to be drastic, and we're going to stamp you out. As an ideology.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. There's no more of this. And Joanna's right. She's like, we can't let the violence slide. But the thing is that there has to be a consequence. And right now, every system that should be working to give them the consequence of their actions is broken. This is not going to be solved by government. This is not going to be solved by waiting for the system to dispense justice. We, the people, have to speak up, act out, and go to our authorities and say, you will either do your job or move out of the way, and we will put people in place to do the job that we want you to do. And if they fail, you're looking at the people doing the job for them, and that is not a good outcome for anyone.
Well,
the price will be very high.
I was talking to a couple of political figures and a couple of commentators, and I know there's a lot of people who are afraid that a consequence of this is going to be potentially, it could escalate as much as starting a second civil war. This could be our Prince Ferdinand, Duke Ferdinand, moment, referencing World War I and how that started, which no one realized was as big as it turned out to be. The dominoes kept falling. Right. In this case, dominoes are falling as well. And could they get big enough that we could see a war start over this? Not directly just because of this, but because of the environment that right. we are in, and people are reacting to it. I would like to say no, but at the same time, when I hear Democrats, Libertarians, Conservatives, Republicans all say they are terrified to be in public doing politics because they think something is going to happen.
Right.
We if we're not at the tipping point, we may well have fallen over it.
Right. Well, I was having a discussion with one of my coworkers today, and not that long ago, and he made a good point. He's like, not that long ago, if I made known what my politics were at work, I would have lost my job. And he's like, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you go around and like openly discuss your ideas about liberty and individual responsibility and these things. Why do you do it when you could lose everything? And I'm like, what will I lose? They can't take my skills away from me. I can always go find another job, one that maybe actually is among people that are more inclined to my way of thinking. What are they going to take from me? They're going to throw insults at me? Well, today the demonstration is, are you willing to lose your life over this? And we're not just talking figuratively. We're talking about, are you going to lose your life over this? Are you okay with that? And I told him, yeah. I mean, ultimately, if my demise leads to something greater and a better future for my children, then I'll pay it. I'll pay it. But I don't want it to be in vain. I want it to mean something. And nobody will know what that means unless I'm actually vocal about it. So we can't just knee-jerk react and start purging the entire country. That's not what we want. What we want is that's not going to destroy the ideology that brought us to this place. We have to prove that our way of life of liberty is much better and works better and provides the most freedom than what they're offering as fear and micromanagement from an authoritarian central government.
So does that mean you think, and I'll ask Frank and everyone, does this mean, did the left, and I'm presuming, and I am 99% confident that this is some leftist, far left lunatic, whether they're progressive, democratic, socialist, I don't really know. I am 99% sure this is a left-wing lunatic. Lunatic specifically because of what they did, but left-wing person who committed this assassination will part of the backlash be the Democrats, progressives, that they're already losing support. They're at 33%, even among Democrats, the DNC, that people are leaving in droves. Black men are leaving in droves. Does this drive people further away from the left? Or is this going to bring Gen Z, Gen Alpha? Is this going to drive some of these people, large numbers, to them? What do you think?
No, I think it's going to drive them away. But more than that, I think Gen Z and Gen Alpha in particular, there were quite a few of them that looked up to Kirk. And
who the hell is Gen Alpha?
That's the ones after Gen Z. It's kids who are like preteens right now.
So,
until they can prove they're an alpha, they just need to shut up.
No. It's not alpha like that. They hit
leadership.
No.
I'm talking about 12-year-olds.
No, they hit Z. So
Gen A.
Gen A. Yeah, they hit Z. So now they're cycling back to Gen A.
They call them right now. They're Gen Ass Hat. That's what the A stands for. Marshall, you've been quiet. I want to hear from you, please.
Well, I piped it a few times. Honestly, Charlie Kirk was the epitome of civil discourse.
Right.
Okay, and that is what we should take from his life. And the fact that the left chose to silence somebody on the right, because I have a very hard time believing this is not an assassination by somebody on the left. Only goes to prove that our voice is powerful.
Yeah.
And the fact that they had to resort to this to silence a voice because they couldn't rebut it. They had no arguments against him. I mean, that was his whole platform, was a challenge to the left to prove him wrong. And they couldn't do it. So instead, they had to resort to violence to silence him.
Well, look, I said in the past, nothing is more dangerous than a cornered animal. And if you look at the way things have been going politically, if you look at the way things have been going If you look at the electoral map, you look at all the way things have been moving, the judicial decisions and stuff like that, you see them be losing more and more and more and more ground. And I said, the more ground they lose, the more violent they're going to get, because that's the only tool that they have left in the quiver, is to go after everybody violently. Now, what do I think is this going to solidify? Let me tell you something. They're driving the stakes into the ground. They are reinforcing their positions right now. They are reveling in Charlie Kirk's death. They are now emboldened to believe that this is the way to go. This is how they're going to get their point across, and they're going to continue to do this over and over and over again. And our side, whether we like it or not, whether we think it's going to have some good or not, our side is going to have to start stiffening up our spine a little bit and being better prepared for what they're going to do.
Absolutely.
Okay. You were looking for the name before, Vass. Crispus Attucks. That was the name that you were looking for before. Okay. That was the very first shot that fired up the revolution.
Yeah.
When we talk about the Civil War, it's a different story. It's a bit more complex. But what we're looking at right now is not necessarily a civil war. This is a new revolution. Because this is not a matter of just opposing ideologies where people are trying to talk about one thing and they're talking about another. This is a matter of people trying to destroy the very fabric of the country. Every single piece of it.
Yeah.
Every single component that makes America the greatest nation on earth is under attack by the left. And it doesn't matter what you can point to, they are trying to tear it down. This is not going to be a matter of saying it's a civil war. This is going to be the second American Revolution. And the people that are out there lighting the fires don't realize that there's a powder keg underneath it. And when it blows, it's going to blow. 25 years ago, there were 4 guns in America for every American. Right now, that number is 8.
Yeah.
That number is 8 guns for every American. And I'm telling you right now, I know people that have been preparing for the inevitability. There are plans afoot on how to deal with these kind of things. And we're talking about people that you worry about sleeper cells of foreign terrorism. There are sleeper cells of Americans right now that have been waiting and waiting and waiting for somebody to fire off the first shot of the second revolution, and they will respond in kind. And this is, listen, it's going to be a matter of saying, listen, you poked the bear. You poked it way too hard. And if you go back, there's a monologue. I forgot what movie it's from, about the lion. The lion's getting a little old, and he's, the other animals on the Serengeti are, they're taking shots at him. They're stealing his food. They're grabbing his tail. They're biting his feet. They're doing this. They're doing that. And then one day, the lion just has enough. And he tears the shit out of everybody, because every now and then the lion's got to show everybody who he is. Well, you know what? American patriots are going to wind up showing people who they are. And all these blue-haired loonies that are out there right now celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, you know what? You all have to read a little bit about Hansel and Gretel and the breadcrumbs. You're leaving a line of breadcrumbs everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Everyone knows who you are. And if you're reveling in the death of an innocent man who used nothing more than his voice, his logic, and his intelligence to undermine every one of your arguments and show you for the radical lunatics that you really are, I know Charlie wouldn't want people to act a certain way.
Sure.
But people are going to act in a way that's according to protecting themselves, their families, and their country. You are starting a revolution you do not want to start. Take heed, pack your shit, move to Canada, do whatever the hell you got to do. Stay the hell out of the way of the American people, because I think you're getting to the point where they've had quite enough. And today might just be about the boy. We're at 211 and 3/4 degrees.
I
You
agree.
better back the fire off a little bit before you hit the boiling point.
I agree.
I
Right.
think what we're looking at here, though, is that these people that do these things, they believe in their own minds that they're doing a service to their country,
How?
and that, well, hear me out.
Okay.
So that basically the rhetoric has been for the last while that they're losing their democracy, right? The left is all about, well, we're losing our democracy, especially, like Bernie Sanders and them. Oh, we're losing our democracy. These people believe that they're doing a service, right? And that the revolution that they're trying to incite is going to bring about this sort of authoritarian Marxist revolution that's going to make a utopia of the United States, because the leftists have promised such. And in their own minds, they're the hero, and that they're going to be able to share power with these people that have promised them this utopia. What they don't understand is, one, Americans are not going to take it.
True.
We just are not built for socialism, not the way they want it. They've been able to sneak a whole bunch of it right into our system as it stands, and the American people generally have tolerated it because it hasn't been that bad. But if it's going to go any more further, the revolution that they're seeking is going to turn into one of their biggest nightmares, because they are going to, as Frank says, poke the bear to the point where we're going to respond in kind, and it's not going to be pretty. And people are reaching the point where they just don't care. I mean,
That may be
you
more
want
dangerous.
to talk about uh, desensitizing people to the violence, and having a reaction like those people on the train in Charlotte, right, where nobody really moved a muscle until after the killer was gone. That's one place, a microcosm, but that's not the nation. The nation will never tolerate that. And after a while, we're going to get to the point, and I'm saying we, as in the people in general, are going to get to the point where we're going to realize we can't vote our way out. They've left us no other avenue, and they keep prodding and prodding and prodding until we prod back. And when we prod back, it's going to be terrible. It's going to be terrible. And like I said, the cost is going to be supremely high. So they have to ask themselves, am I really ready to die for this? The crazy ones will say yes. We already saw that in Minnesota.
No, yes.
In Minneapolis. The crazy ones will be like, yeah, I'm going to die for the cause. It's going to sow chaos. It's going to be great. Rawr! The rest of us don't want the chaos. We want our country back. And we've tried to be tolerant, and we've tried to vote it back into existence. And every time we try, their claws in the system get deeper, and they've always been able to stymie it, because we have a series of representatives that, one, don't represent us. They go to Washington and something happens, and all of a sudden they can't do anything. I mean, look at the Republicans. How much they've had 8 months to do something in Washington on the federal scale to actually solidify the mandate of the people by legislation, to make it permanent. What have they done? Zero.
Yeah.
Zero. Even the stuff that they passed, like the big beautiful bill and all that, is full of bullshit. They've done zero to really make an effective permanent legislation to get rid of the crap that's corrupting our system. The people are going to get sick of it. And you take away voices like Charlie Kirk that sued for peace through discourse, to try to resolve these problems through discourse. And the rest of and he's demonized for it because his words are violent and divisive. You know what? If you can't take a dissenting opinion because you have nothing left and you lash out, I don't know how you think you're going to that optically you're going to be able to play the victim on this one, because you were the provokers, and everybody knows it.
No, they're trying to play the victim because J.B. Pritzker, in particular, has publicly come out and said, no. See, it's not because of the shooter. It's because of Donald Trump. Orange man bad.
Bullshit.
It's the right is the cause. Because if you didn't say things that upset the left wouldn't have to respond with violence. That's the logic that they are trying to spin out there. It's kind of like how you see yesterday, the part of the reason why they delayed talking about what happened in Charlottesville is because the left had to figure a way to spin it. And the spin is now, well, it's a mental health issue and he's black and it's not really his fault. It's
Bullshit.
the fault of Trump cutting the mental health funding. And so it's Orange Man bad. They're trying to circle everything around Orange Man bad. They're trying to circle everything around their policies have failed. Their ideology has failed.
Yeah, I get that. It's he's an evil. The guy in Charlotte was an evil individual.
Yeah,
that's it. Period. Evil individual.
Simple enough to me.
That could have been stopped one of 14 times before he committed a murder again.
15 times. Yes, that's true.
So that whole idea of mental illness bullshit is just that. It's bullshit because before Donald Trump was in office, that guy was arrested one of 14 times. So where was your concern over mental health then? It didn't exist. So that spin is a line of bullshit.
Yeah. No, according to that piece of shit Van Jones, well, he was hurting, and hurting people hurt other people. When people hurt, they hurt other people.
That's stupid. That is a stupid statement.
That is a stupid statement.
That's Van Jones. Every name a statement that he's made that isn't stupid.
And that's the thing. Is like I was talking to somebody today, and I'm like, you know what? The biggest way that we could correct this is that we need to repeal all gun control. Will it stop it entirely? No. But what it will do is it will make the worst among us be neutralized. And those that would think to be the worst among us wouldn't attempt it because at least their self-preservation would kick in.
No,
listen, they wouldn't try it.
I'm here in Charlotte, all right? I'm here in Charlotte. For those of you who don't know what I do in the day, I sell guns. That's what I do. I sell guns. I sell guns. I teach people to shoot. I teach people self-defense. I teach a whole litany of other stuff. I do all of this. This is what I do in the daytime. At least every week, I sell, me personally, and my team at work is probably 12 strong. I sell at least 25 guns a week to people who are first-time gun owners. All right? And I strongly advocate for their training, for them to take classes, for them to be able to do anything. Yep. I have taken my customers to the range on my time, on my free time, on my range, on my dime, taking them so I can personally instruct these people. Half of the people I sell guns to are minorities.
Yeah.
And they all say the same thing. Charlotte is a shit show, and they don't want to fall victim.
Understandable.
Okay, right. And I say to myself, all right, well, I'm helping. I'm doing the best I can.
Right.
I'm doing the best I can. We're trying to help all of this stuff. And we've got a lot of policies at work that I am like fomenting against. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs about corporate bullshit and all kinds of other stuff that's anti-Second Amendment when it comes to corporate policy with gun sales and stuff like that. I'm screaming about all of this stuff all the time. I see people every single day. Every day they come up to me and they tell me the same thing. My son got mugged. My daughter got mugged. This one got carjacked. I got carjacked. My home got broken into. This, that, and everything. These are not people that are coming there because they want to be a part of the Second Amendment community for fun, or they want to come to the Second Amendment community because they're trying to just exercise a constitutional right. They're coming to the Second Amendment community out of necessity because law enforcement is not there for them. They're coming to the Second Amendment community because the judicial system is not there for them. They're coming to the Second Amendment community because they're afraid of being a victim. And every week you see more and more and more and more happen where people are becoming victims because they're not prepared. And it's not because they're not prepared that's the cause. Being not prepared is the result.
Right.
When you have somebody attack somebody that is prepared, you're never going to find out about it because the story doesn't fit the mainstream media narrative and it gets brushed under the rug. And you never hear about the guy who somebody tries to carjack a guy and he drops 3 thugs in the street. You never hear about these things. We try to bring those stories to you when they happen. It's hard for us to find them. And I search the FBI lists all the time for this stuff. It is getting bad.
Yeah.
It is getting bad, and it is getting bad predominantly in blue cities, blue states. That's where it's getting bad. Where you have the highest levels of gun control is where you're having the most amount of people that are falling to become a victim.
Let me tweak that a little bit. I would say it's where we have blue administrations, because some of the cities, and then you notice you hear from the left, well, it's red states are in there too. They like to change the argument. Yeah, it's the cities that are run by Democrats. So you can say, yeah, it's a red state, but it's
still the voters who put these people there.
Yes,
right.
That's true. That's
okay.
True.
The voters that put these people there. And the fact of the matter is, I'm selling guns to people who I know voted for the same people that shackle them.
Mm-hmm. That's true. They do.
They're voting. They're trying. They're finally starting to understand that the only way away from their vote is they may have to shoot their way out, because they don't see the correlation just yet that the person that they voted for last election is the person who put the restrictions on them that allowed this asshole on the train to murder this girl.
Yeah.
They don't realize that the judges that they're voting for are the ones that are letting the criminals out of jail. They don't realize that they're the ones who voted for the weak-ass sheriff. They're the ones who voted for the weak-ass mayor. They're the ones who voted for these people, but they see that the reality of their vote comes home. They just haven't figured out the correlation yet. Well, and it's not until they become a victim that they start to have their eyes open. They start saying, "Oh well, I better get a gun now because all the city's going to hell with itself." Well, how did it go to hell with itself?
Well, they don't realize the consequences because the mainstream media keeps trying to hide the consequences. You've got organizations like YouTube, Google that go out there and they change the algorithms to hide the stories from the people. They have the AI age verification that's shutting down selective videos that YouTube and Google don't like. They don't have the right political preference. They're trying to push the approved message in all of, not just social media, but it's in the comic books, it's in the movies, it's in the songs, it's in TV shows, it's in our sports, people like LeBron James. We're seeing it in or Sports Center with Stephen A. Smith. We are surrounded, we're being drowned by the propaganda, trying to hide people from understanding the simple truth of these are the consequences. And that's one of the crazy things about today. It is a consequence.
Right.
And it isn't a consequence of what Charlie Kirk did. This is a consequence of the indoctrination and the fact that the indoctrination has failed. New York State failed. They're not protecting people. In North Carolina, they're not protecting people. They failed. The leftist ideology has failed economically, in terms of morality, in terms of safety, in terms of economics. It has failed. And the people who are pointing out, by the way, it's failed and it is going to continue to fail. Now we have the consequences, and people have a choice. Recognize it's failed, which means do something different, which means Democrats lose power, or fear-mongering. The very same leftists are going to try and kill you or by violence, get you to cower in fear and obey. Those are the only two choices I see.
And by cowering in fear, that's just going to make them double down because it was effective. If you let it happen, and that's the thing. The people cannot stand this anymore. We cannot stand for this anymore. You have to see the correlation between the two. And we need to go back. We need to go back to when America was effective, and it was effective when people were able to see to their own needs, security included. Not because we're afraid, but because we're prepared. Like Frank was saying before, we don't prepare ourselves to not be a victim because we're afraid of being victims. We prepare so that if we become victims, we know how to get ourselves out of it. And at a certain point, it becomes a gamble. You might be successful, you might not. But at least you were prepared so that you have a better chance of being successfully not a victim.
The odds go up.
The odds
They
go up
significantly. Yeah.
Now, I not to deviate too much, but was there any veracity that Kirk was wearing a bulletproof vest or plates?
I have not heard about that. I would generally say, based on his other programs and looking at photos in general, I would say 95% of the time, no, he doesn't wear one.
Okay. Because there was speculation in some of the reporting that actually he had been shot in the torso,
No,
but he was in such a position that it actually clipped the top of a plate and actually went into his neck.
no. Okay.
No, they would have to be so much forensic analysis done to be able to even think that would be a possibility, and that's not something that could be ascertained at this point. Looking at the video and looking at the way he was and everything, he doesn't look like he was wearing any sort of protective armor.
Well,
Okay.
not only that, but let me also mention, I actually, in watching the video, I actually took a screenshot. I actually have the wound itself, like the split second it impacted him.
Yeah.
So I know exactly where the impact site was on his body. No deflection, no body armor. I know, and I have the screenshot. It's from the video of him being shot, that moment he got shot, and I happened to capture the exact entry wound. No bulletproof vest, no deflection.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not something that we'll be sharing here.
No.
Yeah, no, I won't. But I just have it for posterity, and in case the left tries to lie about this in some way.
Yeah.
Like, no, it was an exit.
There's already been some claims that it's AI and never happened, and
yeah, they'll say it's a lie. He got shot.
typical nut jobs.
It's the same thing that they tried to do with the Trump assassination too. Like they'll be like, well, his ear doesn't have any scar tissue on it. He's got his whole ear and all this other stuff, and it's like the man is vain. He's got money. You don't think he's not going to have reconstructive surgery done to his ear? I mean,
Which is relatively easy to do.
It's all cartilage. I mean, you just kind of put it back together, right? I mean, whatever. Anyway, the people in the United States need to take control of their security again. Like when we were talking about the National Guard going into Chicago and stuff the other day, Mike, when we were talking,
Mhm.
The other alternative is that these cities, if they were really genuine in cleaning up their streets of crime, would actually repeal all the gun control and let the citizens see to their own defense. They won't. They won't, because they don't want the people to have that kind of control over their own domiciles and their own neighborhoods.
Yeah.
But they could.
Did you notice that the CNNs, the MSNBCs, the leftist media, that they're trying to say, oh my God, well, we can't let this become another reason for Donald Trump to put troops into cities, which means this can't be, we don't want this to become another reason why Trump is trying to protect the public from insane lunatics. Like,
Why not?
am I the only one hearing this when they say this? Like, oh my God, we're afraid. Trump's going to see this Charlie Kirk. He sees he's dead, and now he's going to want to protect the public from lunatics on the left. We can't let him do that. We have to Trump's the bad guy. We have to stop him from protecting the public.
Okay,
It's
so
insane.
it is insane. So you know what the leftists could do that would really, really blow everybody's mind? Repeal all the gun control. You don't want the troops in your city? Repeal all the gun control so they all have guns.
That would be nice.
Now all of a
Well-
sudden, guns are good, right?
Well,
You can repeat.
well, what I notice is every time that there's a shooting, it's gun violence.
Right.
But every time somebody who is a member of the political class or affiliated to the political class, somebody like a Charlie Kirk, is shot, it's political violence. So
Right.
was this gun violence or was this political? Is it only gun violence when it's ordinary civilian that
they're
gets killed?
actually using both terms with Charlie Kirk because they're also trying to use the shooting in Colorado to push forth more gun control.
Oh, that was the two
Colorado?
high schoolers, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, but Colorado. How did any of that happen in Colorado when Colorado's got some of the strictest gun laws in the country?
Right. 2 students were shot in a high school in Colorado today.
Yeah, and nine people died in Chicago over the weekend.
53 people were shot 2 weekends ago in Chicago.
Yeah,
Gun control
but
doesn't work.
that's not gang violence. That's gun violence. That's not street violence. That's gun violence. It's not this violence. That's all gun violence. This was political violence. You never hear anybody talk about knife violence. Why wasn't the girl on the train talked about? Why wasn't that knife violence? She was killed by a knife. No, she was killed by a guy wielding a knife, but it wasn't knife violence.
Right.
There are on average 400 Americans lose their lives every year because they're beaten to death by a hammer.
Yeah.
But we never hear about hammer violence.
Well,
But this was political violence. Everything is the narrative. It's always the
What
narrative.
about vehicular violence?
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
increased as well.
That's been increasing a lot lately. Sadly, it's they always try these new categories and they try these new. It's distractions. It's smoke and mirrors. It's trying to make it seem like it's so complicated that you and I can't possibly understand this story. That's why I don't know about you guys. I often hear people, like when I go out to speak at events or something, and people go, "But you can't know that." I'm like, "Why not? What's preventing me? You can't say that. You don't know that." I'm like, "But I can, and I can show you my sources. I can show you the work I've done to figure it out and why I have the reasons I do." But you can't. Why? Well, you don't work for ABC News. You don't work for the New York Times. I'm like that means anything.
Well, I got into a debate this week about I can't even remember what the hell her name is, but hold on a second. It's about the difference between a republic and democracy. Here it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So Dara Star Tucker. I don't know if you guys have heard of her, but she's a jazz singer and social justice warrior.
Woohoo!
So she came out with a video this week. I don't know about you all, but it really bothers me when people say that we are a constitutional republican, not a democracy, when they're the same thing.
Ugh.
Well,
Okay.
clearly she's a fucking idiot.
She's undereducated, and she's just going with the commonality, the common language that the left likes to push out there.
All right, so Marshall, how did you put the what's her name? Donna what? Donna
Star Tucker.
Tucker. Oh, I thought you said Zucker.
Dana.
Dana. Okay. Yeah.
Or no,
Let's see
Dara.
this idiot.
Dara.
All right, so I'm gonna look for this idiot while you're talking. Go
I
ahead,
will
tell us how you
nothing.
put her in a place.
I don't.
So anyway, I said, well, first off, the founding fathers did not give us a democracy. In fact, they abhorred democracy. Okay, they called it mob rule.
Correct.
And that's exactly what it is. Because in a democracy, the majority, 100% of the time, rules.
Right.
Regardless. And I started explaining, okay, we cannot be a democracy because even when majority votes for something to enact something, the executive branch can veto it.
Mhm.
That's not majority rule. That is not democracy. Even when the majority decides to enact law that goes against, that exceeds its power, the court system can overturn that law. That is not democracy. That is the foundation of a republic.
Right.
If it's not majority rule, then it is not a democracy. And I got all kinds of people saying, well, it's a form of democracy, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not a form of democracy. A republic is a republic.
Right.
Okay. There is very distinct differences.
Ugh.
We may have some processes that mimic democracy, but we are in no way, shape, or form a democracy.
It's funny because on her Wikipedia page, it says she also doesn't have the ability to distinguish between a constitutional republic and a democracy.
Yeah.
What do you know about that?
Bum, 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 bum.
So yeah. And I don't even know how many people tried to say, do you even watch that? I go, yeah, I watched the video. That's why I'm commenting.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm literally, and then on a few of them, I said, can you even define what a democracy is? And of course, that shut everybody right down.
Yeah, because they'd have to say, well, that's each individual showing up to vote on every single issue. That's democracy.
Okay. And that is a full democracy.
Right.
But you also have what's called a representative democracy, which is what they're trying to claim we are.
Which is not.
And we're not. Okay.
Right.
Because even in a representative democracy, it's still majority rule 100% of the time.
Right.
It's just that you vote for representatives to cast those votes.
Marshall, what's the representative democracy that we have as an example to point to?
What was that?
What's the representative democracy that we have to point to that's operating right now on planet Earth? I don't think it's the UK because the UK
There isn't one.
No, the UK is lost.
Well, no, but I'm
The
saying
UK is still a monarchy.
Yeah, it's still a monarchy. Maybe Germany.
It's a
Maybe.
part. No, there is no actual full democracy.
No,
As just about every country that claims to be a democracy isn't. They're either an authoritarian type regime of some sort, or they have representative elements, but they're not a democracy. They're more republic because generally their executive power, whether it be a king, a prime minister, or whatnot, does hold some veto powers.
Yeah, Germany is what they call a federal parliamentary republic.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Germany is. Let's see.
most of the European nations would be similar. They run with parliaments.
Yeah, Britain is a parliamentary democracy and constitutional monarchy.
Constitutional monarchy, I knew. And the parliamentary system came out of the constitutional monarchy, but almost all of Europe is parliamentary systems.
But I mean, even England is not a democracy.
Right.
No.
Okay, because the prime minister has the power to veto laws.
Right.
Okay, and ultimately, at the end of the day, the crown has the authority.
Yeah, France is called a semi-presidential system, whatever the hell that is,
Well, it's
because
they have both. They have the prime minister and they have a president.
A prime minister, a president, the parliament, and all the rest of this. They don't know what the hell they're doing in France. France is also done. England is done. Germany is done. The only people that are actually starting to actually fight back a little bit is Ireland and Scotland. They're starting to get back to their roots. Scotland, especially, is starting to. I mean, you know who's in the lead for president right now in Scotland?
Who's that?
Conor McGregor.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Or is it Ireland? No,
It's Ireland.
He's
Ireland.
Ireland. Yeah, he's in the lead for president for Ireland.
Yeah,
And
by a
I'm like,
landslide.
you know, I'm like, I can't stand Conor McGregor, his personality, but you know what? Go for it, brother. I'm rooting for you all the way. I'm rooting for you. And you know how many people a week we get into the shop that are from England, Germany, or whatever? You know what they come into the shop for? They want to take pictures with the guns.
Because they can't do it in their country.
Because they can't do it there. And we had Australians and every one of these groups that come in here, and we get them by the busload. I'm talking like 30 or 40 of them come in at a time, and like 7 or 8 of them will always migrate themselves over to the gun counter to see what's going on over there. And I chastise all of them. Where is your heritage? Do you remember your history? Do you know of the sacrifices made by your forefathers? What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Why are you and then I asked him, why are you visiting America? And then, well, we just wanted to see what I said. No. You don't want to just see America. You want to see what freedom looks like.
Right.
And behind me, there's 1,000 guns on the wall behind me. I'm like, this is what freedom looks like. When are you going to grow your balls back and start getting your freedom back? And Australians, they're the worst. They all talk a big game, but they're the ones who will lay down their rifles in front of the steamrollers to let them destroy them. Now they're only allowed to own a bolt-action rifle. They have to have 4 permits to do it.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, so, well, it kind of makes sense. Australia was started as a prison colony.
Yeah.
So it only makes sense that they're all still prisoners now. But we get them in from New Zealand, and I'm like, dudes, really? You know, say the word. There'll be a boat at the dock. I'm telling you, there'll be a boat at the dock that says Freedom Express on it. They'll help you. Those people will help you. They'll help you get your freedom back. What's wrong with you people? None of them have. There's only a few countries in Europe right now that have had just enough with the experiment of multiculturalism and the open border policies that have seen their wives, daughters, and mothers get raped and murdered and beheaded and they're getting arrested for flying their own flags, being arrested for praying outside in public, being arrested for insulting somebody over Twitter or Facebook. Some of these countries are starting to wake up, but you know what? They'll be gone before they get there.
Poland has been doing it. To give them credit, the Polish have been fighting.
Oh, the Polish are a different. Listen. For years, we all grew up with Polak jokes. For years, we all grew up with Polak jokes for years. All right, but one thing they're understanding is what a republic really means, and what it means to embrace your national culture. Now, in this country, we've been criticized by other countries for years that we're still such a young country that we don't have our own culture. But Americanism is its own distinct culture.
Sure.
And it's not because it's been enriched by everybody who came here to do something, because there's a difference between the settlers and the immigrants.
Yeah.
The American culture was built by the settlers of America. Okay, this is the people who came to a barren land. Yes, there were some people here. Yes, we understand the Native American history. Yes, we understand all of that. But for the most part, it was a barren land. There was nothing here. And the settlers came and they built. And they brought with them an idea, and they built industry, they built infrastructure, they built skyscrapers, they brought to the world the greatest inventions of all time. They brought, because of all of their unique experiences in their own individual cultures, added something to America that made us great, and that was the American culture. It was built by the settlers, and the descendants of those settlers, both free man and non, that built this country. And when the people turn around and they talk in this country about how America was built by immigrants, no, that's not the case. It was built by the settlers, because the immigrants showed up after the culture was established.
Yep.
And the immigrants came to benefit from the culture that was here, the American culture. They came and they benefited from a culture that showed them what freedom was, unlike anywhere else in the world. And it was America that gave birth to prosperity, to millions and millions and millions of people who came to this country, who did not come with an open hand for a handout, but came with a fist looking to fight for the American dream. Those are the people. It was the immigrants that benefited from the work of the settler. And the people that are coming here now were no longer immigrants looking to benefit from our system. They're coming here to corrupt the system, to turn it into something reminiscent of the land from whence they came. And that cannot be allowed to happen in the United States. That's what's happened in Europe with their open door policy, and the people are finally starting to wake up and realize their culture, their French culture, their German culture, their Polish culture, their English culture, all of the cultures that built great walls and dominated the globe for 1,000 years, that culture is at risk of being destroyed, because they're bringing people in who do not want to assimilate, but want to assimilate them.
Yeah.
The only problem is for them is that they long ago gave up their teeth. They gave their teeth away to the wolf, because the wolf told them they would protect them. And now the sheep are on the menu. Well, those sheep better start learning how to sharpen up them cloven hooves and sharpen up them spikes on the top of the head and get to fighting, because otherwise their culture will be gone. The Americans, I'm not so much worried about what's going to happen to our culture, because eventually we will have just enough where we fight back. And when we do, it will be ugly, but it will be short, but it will also be permanent. I'm worried about what's going to happen in Europe, because what bleeds over from Europe is going to bleed over to here. And if we don't have our identity secured before it happens in Europe, we are going to get further watered down, and we're going to get further demoralized and further bankrupted by trying to prevent what happens in Europe, which is inevitable. They've got to start that fight now. I tell the visitors that come to the shop all the time, please, we in here in America, we are not your enemies. We are descendants. We are the people that came from you, and we got it right. Please look to us for some guidance and bring a little bit of America to your shores and gain back your individuality, gain back your independence, and fight for something, because it's all going to be gone soon. The left is trying to destroy us by using the same tools that are being used to destroy Europe.
Yep.
It's up to us to make sure that we fight against that. And by any means necessary. I just hope it gets to the point where we start doing it before it gets violent.
Yeah.
But they are pushing us. Like I said, they lit the fire. It's 211.5 degrees. Do they really want this to boil over? Because if it does, there's access to voter rolls. That's all I got to say. There's breadcrumbs. No, there's digital footprints.
And the thing is you're looking.
And there are smart people on our side that know how to access all of it.
and that's the thing, isn't it? Is that it's like they're trying all this to force us into submission, and they're using any and all means to do so. They're using aggressive cultures that have submission as part of their ethos, right? Because what is Islam? Islam is about submission to the will of Allah, right? Well, who's the dispenser of that will? It's the Islamic people. They don't come here to escape the oppression of Islam. They come here to bring Islam to us. And what is Islam? Submission. So unless they're coming here to practice their religion in peace and they're here to assimilate American culture, which is actually American liberty is actually the antithesis of what Islam is, because it does not promote submission in the same sense that Islam requires. Americanism doesn't. The two are at odds. I mean, just the other day, what did we see? We saw in Houston a block of Muslim adherents were going around Houston trying to force stores to stop selling alcohol, tobacco, and pork.
Oh, well, that's an old video. That was from a couple of years ago. It's reemerged, and I'll tell you what's helping reemerge that is that they just had a political rally not that long ago in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Right.
And they had 1,000 people at this rally chanting "Death to America" on
really?
American soil,
That
flying Islamic flags. The other thing that sparked it is that there's a city in Colorado, I believe it was Colorado someplace, I forget what it is, a municipality, where one of the officers redesigned the sheriff's patrol patch that would be on the uniform, and it was in Arabic.
That was in Michigan. That was in Dearborn.
Was that Michigan? I forgot where it was.
It was
but they redesigned. So people are starting to say, "Wait a minute, whoa!" Now the mayor of that town, the mayor of that city, who was Islamic, but he's a pro-Trump guy. He's a pro-freedom. He's, I guess, what you would say, a conservative Muslim.
Moderate.
He put the kibosh.
He'd be a moderate.
Yeah, he'd be a moderate as far as Islam.
Yeah, he put the kibosh on that and stopped it. He said, "No, this is America. We don't do that shit here." But you're starting to see an emergence in this country of what Islamic fundamentalism has done to this country and in the inroads that they have made in. Yeah. And you start to see there are cities in America that are majority Islamic councils, is majority Islamic politicians, the mayors, the city councils, police chiefs, fire chiefs. And I mean, not for nothing, in Brooklyn right now, there is Islamic adherence police vehicles rolling around in Brooklyn through Islamic neighborhoods that look exactly like NYPD, and they're enforcing Sharia law.
Well, they're trying to, but here's the thing. And they can only do it to those who adhere to Sharia. But here's the thing. The Muslim communities, Dearborn in particular, Dearborn, Michigan, great example of it. They are just an outward, easily identified example of the problem, which is these are, for lack of any country, they are Muslims in America, not Muslim Americans, not Americans who are Muslim. They're not that. And you can say the same thing, that we have people here who are from Angola in America, but they're not Americans
with Angolan history. Yeah.
Right. Their thing is wherever they're from is in America, taking advantage of the resources, the infrastructure, the freedom of America, but they want their culture to remain. They want their culture to be prominent and to spread because of the resources, because of the freedom, because of the opportunity that they can't get in their own country, but because they're in America, they can, and now they want it to spread and flourish, which you can't do in their country, because ultimately, at the end of the day, their countries are failures.
Right.
That's why they came to America. That's why they're not spreading their culture in any other way. They have to come to America, use our resources, our infrastructure, our freedom to push their
And-
cultural ideas.
And let's not also take for granted that the fact that American birth rates have been down significantly over the last 30 years. We're not outpacing our own population with new births.
Right.
There's more people dying, more Americans are dying than what are being born in America, and we are stagnating as far as our population growth goes by percentage. The immigrant population, on the other half, is outpacing us 4-1. 4-1 that
Right.
they're doing it. They're not there. And if you go to any of these people that have come here, why are you here? They will tell you straight out, we want to turn America into a Muslim country.
Yep.
This is not a secret. This is not a secret. They are doing everything they possibly can to use the freedoms that this country has and the benefits at their disposal to undermine the very country that they don't want to call home. They want to conquer.
Right.
There's a difference between people who want to come here and become Americans, and then there's the people that come here and want us to become Riyadh. They want us to become Afghanistan.
And I want to point out that it's not just the Muslims that are doing it. It's these vigorous cultures. They have more vigor because they make more of themselves.
Well,
and we've been encouraged this entire time: kill your kids, have abortions, kill your kids, don't increase the population, depopulate.
And now you know why Charlie Kirk is dead. Because everything that you just said are the things that he tried to warn everybody about. He said, please stop killing your children. Please get married. Please have Please have more children. Please go back to a traditional way of life. This is the way the way forward for America, to get back to our roots, to get back to our culture. Nothing he said was controversial.
No.
Nothing he said was wrong. Everything he said was about the foundation of America, and they killed him for it.
Yep.
They killed him for it. We are at war. Whether we want to admit it or we don't want to admit it, this is a war, not only for the country, but the very heart and soul of it. And unless American people start to wake up and realize what is at stake, and they go to Arlington and look at the frickin' crosses and the stars of David that are there, and look at all the sacrifices that have been made. Go to Normandy Beach and look at the crosses and stars that are there, and see what the sacrifices have been made there. 1.7 million Americans have died to preserve the American way of life. That's how many Americans we have lost in conflict in the 249 years of this nation. 1.7 million people have died. Please don't let those sacrifices go in vain. For God's sake, there's heroism in your blood. It's in your veins. There's a national pride that is there. And it's not white nationalists or black nationalists. It's American nationalists. It's American. It's red, white, and blue. It's something we all share, regardless of our color, creed, or sexual orientation or religion. Get back to where you were, and hopefully we can be that bright, shining hill on the city that Reagan spoke about and that Charlie Kirk tried to embrace and tried to spread to a young group of people. Because he could get through to the kids in 5 minutes of debate where their lecturers and their teachers take them 4 years to indoctrinate. That's why they murdered him. That's why they killed him. He spoke about America. He spoke about freedom. That's why they killed him.
Yeah.
And everyone, even the left, owes him a debt. Because you know what, leftists, if it weren't for people like Charlie Kirk, your voice wouldn't be able to be heard.
Right.
So you owe him that debt as well. All right, listen, it's 10:08. My computer is on 2% battery life because I've been out in my screen porch trying to not get bitten by mosquitoes. So I'm going to sign off. Everybody just say a prayer for Charlie Kirk's wife and children.
Yes.
I know we said before, don't worry about them financially. They're going to be okay, but this is not something that they can recover from without all of our support.
And I mean, send them your prayers. Keep them in your prayers. I mean, my heart is just devastated for his wife and children.
Yeah.
This was a senseless, brutal attack on somebody that should have been held as an example by both the left and right as to what it means to have civil discourse, how to have open debate and dialogue.
Yeah.
He didn't care what people had to say. Okay. And he challenged them to prove him wrong. And many tried and many failed. And if he needed to rethink something, he would. If he needed to research something more, he would. Okay. And he would admit when he didn't have the knowledge to adequately debate something.
Yep.
Okay. The man was actually very humble. So just hold them in your prayers and offer them support. If anything, help promote his cause. Send a donation, TPUSA. Okay? Help spread this type of message where we can come together and celebrate free speech in the manner that Charlie Kirk did.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us this week. I'm really sorry that it's been the topics that it's been tonight. As a nation, not only pray for Charlie and his family, but pray for all of us as a nation, because this has got to come to an end. This has got to stop. We can't survive as a nation like this, at least without scarring ourselves worse than we already have been. People got to start take better care of each other. Really, we can't let this destroy us.
And understand, it's okay to disagree.
Yep.
All right, folks, I'm going to cut out because I'm about to drop. My battery's about to dead. Guys, I love you guys. Be safe. Shoot straight. We'll catch you guys next week.
All right.
We'll see you guys next week, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Thank you.